I am resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Joel Saints. That is my buddy Patrick McCray. That is my buddy Gordon Dymowski. That's my buddy Daniel Culver. We are here to review Nosferatu from 2024. William Dafoe is in this. Lily Rose Depp is in this. Very, very atmospheric movie. Very fun. Daniel, why did you pick this one, buddy?
I actually picked this one because, well, I like the old, the original Nosferatu as well. And, I figured it'd be a good one to review because a lot of people seem to like this movie.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Now, William Defoe's character, what I like most about him is he doesn't show up till halfway through this. What did you guys think of? I mean, William Defoe is a great actor. This was a very different Nosferatu movie than the other two, which is a great thing. Is when you remake something, you want it to be different. You don't want it. You don't want it to be Gus Van Sant's Psycho, which this movie will not be getting accused of. So, guys, when did you guys first? Oh, sorry, 2024. Yeah, it just came out not too long ago. Sorry, but what did you guys think of Lily Rose Depp's performance here, Gordon?
I thought she was. I thought she did it. I think she did a good job. I think this is a movie that is more focused on. I mean, the plot is basically Dracula, with some minor tweaks. But I think she handles herself well. I think some of the scenes where she's having seizures and is possessed are very realistic, and I think it's a testament that when Willem Dafoe comes in the middle of the movie, it doesn't feel like, oh, okay, now the movie's going to get better just because he's in it.
Yeah, yeah. Patrick, what did you think of Lily Rose Depp's performance?
I thought it was fine. If you have enough, and by enough I mean not much dialogue, for a very sort of beautiful woman, and she expresses frustrated longing, and that's largely the note that she sustains for the movie, and she does so in a pretty costume. We're programmed to like that, and I don't know if there's a lot more that can be said on that, except it's very good. It's kind of like, what did I think of the gaunt-looking man in all black clothing on the black horse who rides into a spare desert western town? Well, he's going to be imposing and evil. I mean, it's like everything that's performance that does the moment, and so I so admire what they do with that character, and I so admire, meaning her character in the movie, and I so admire what I think is the originality of how they deal with the vampire at the end, and so on and so forth. Through her, that I walked away from the movie thinking, God damn it, this is her movie. And I wish that it had been, I can't say that. I would have, no, I'm not playing by somebody else's rules. I'll play by my rules. I think that this movie really would have fulfilled its promise much more fulfillingly for me if they had allowed her much more screen time. And if I think they had tied her actions at the end to be more of a fulfillment of a story we had seen going on actively from the very beginning. It's almost like this is the character who's going to make the most interesting, difficult choice in the film, and she has very little screen time compared to kind of these dolts. And maybe that's the point. Maybe there's an irony about the power and role of women, that they don't need a whole lot of time in our world to have profound insights and impacts. I don't know, but I thought she was good, and she should have gotten more screen time.
I can understand that.
Yeah. Daniel, what did you think of Lily Rose Depp's performance?
I think she did a pretty good job. Like both Gordon and Patrick said. She should have probably gotten more screen time. I do agree. Like you guys were saying, like the actress that played her did a really good job. And also one thing some people might not notice is at the beginning she has a cat. Many might not realize this, but that's a reference to the original, because in the original she's actually playing with a cat at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. I think too. I don't disagree with you that she should have had more screen time at all, but I also too think the old horror adage is less is more. Even sometimes, usually this means the villain, but it also can mean the protagonist too, or at least somebody who's playing one of the protagonists. And now she's not the only person they do this with. They also do this with William Dafoe. And in a lot of ways, they do this with every character within this frame of this movie
Well,
because,
who are we following then?
well,
and that's less maybe more in horror. And I think my issue with the film, and this is I kind of it's they're retelling a familiar story,
right,
which I get. And I think Eggers does a good job of building that atmosphere.
Yeah.
However, there were times where I felt like they were focusing on so many characters that it was like, hey, look, we're spooky and we're atmosphere and we're gray. If you're going to make one character the emotional hook, which Lily Rose Depp is, you follow her.
Yeah.
And saying, well, you can't cover all these characters. Well, then either, Nosferatu's public domain, so this is basically would be considered just a reframe of that. Do that, cut down the characters, streamline the story, because you can still build atmosphere. But it did feel like there are times where I kind of felt like I had to stop the movie and walk away because it was like, okay, I was trying to figure out, okay, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Not because the story's confusing, but it just seems like it was, it was kind of like, do you want to do moody, atmospheric gothic horror, or are you trying to do Jane Austen-esque costume drama?
Yeah,
And I don't think. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Continue. You make a really good point. I just wanted to comment.
Yeah,
on it.
it feels like there's two styles that you can do well if you keep the focus on merging them. And it just feels like that gothic atmosphere could have supported more of a simpler, less complicated story. But if you're trying to do costume drama that involves vampires, it means that your focus has to be on keeping those characters keeping those characters active. And I don't think either one work. I think it just something doesn't click in the approach.
Yeah, very much so. And I had a bunch of things to say. Ayn Rand had this quote, and she was wrong, where she said, "Why is the soul of a murderer worth studying and not the soul of a hero?" And the problem with so many of these movies is that they don't focus on either one. They focus on these sort of supernumeraries, and at least Dark Shadows has the guts to call itself Dark Shadows. It doesn't call itself Barnabas. Nor does it call itself Maggie or Josette or something like that. Even though, often they, not Barnabas, in the early part of the series, are who get the focus in a lot of ways, or who get the screen time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the problems I have with these stories over and over again, I always felt this, was that it's a cheat. It's a cheat. I mean, I'm not tuning into a movie called Mina. And yet how many times when you start a Dracula movie, well, especially if you think with the mind of a kid who sees a poster for Dracula and can read the title, which is Dracula, and you know that Dracula is the main character, do you tune in and spend most of your time waiting for Dracula. I mean, I know that I don't know. I think that it would be nice to see one of these films really, really, really deliver on that character, as evil as they are. What are they doing? Why are they doing it? What are the forces that oppose them? Why do they keep having to outthink and outconfigure the forces of good that are, inevitably going to take them down? And it's a shame that they don't do that, because that's goddamn Shakespearean. And that's what I want to see. If I see a movie called Nosferatu, I guess Nosferatu is not the name of a guy. It's the name of a type of vampire. But who knows that walking into the theater? If I go into the theater, it's the same thing like being a little kid walking into a movie called Frankenstein. You think the monster is Frankenstein. Well, I think the monster is Nosferatu. Maybe you should call it How Nosferatu Affects the Community or something. But what a terrible title. And again and again, the only thing, and I've never expressed this, but it's just so fucking frustrating to me, is when I watch these goddamn things and they're about everybody but the character I tuned in to fucking watch. And that really, 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 I've had it. And at the same time, I so appreciated the brazen guts of Ellen's character to do what she did. I thought, wow, give the son of a bitch what he wants until he can't take it no more. And I really liked that. I want to see a movie about that person, but Hollywood doesn't have the balls for that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the problem with the Hollywood issue with familiar IP, because everyone knows if you say Nosferatu, they know, okay, it's the bald guy with the teeth and the claws,
sure,
and shadows. Had this film focused, let's say Ellen, the Lily Rose Depp character. Let's say you focus on her story. Husband goes off, and you see this weird shit coming down, and then her husband returns, and it's like, okay, what the heck's going on? Then you introduce Willem Dafoe's character. Then you have Orlok show up. It's like what the Third Man did with Harry Lime. You're talking about this weird legend thing. And you then build up the mystery so that when he does come, he's basically, I was watching a couple of reviews after seeing the movie, and he was just, a reviewer described him as a plague rat, in human form. Like, if you're going to do that, build up the threat, and not this kind of, where it's like, okay, well, he goes off and has, like the husband sequence could have been cut down to like 5 minutes, because it's like, okay, he's in a strange country, he wants to go to this castle. I mean, we've seen this story before, and sometimes you can take a familiar story and tell it in a different way. And
I have a thought on that I'd like to springboard off of, which is, what if you took almost a Merchant Ivory approach, a real shaggy dog story approach to this kind of tale. And it appears to be this May-December romance. This woman has this obsessive businessman for a fiance. He goes off for God knows how long to be in the laps of lovely Bavarian lasses and so on and so forth, leaves you at home. You get a lot of promise about what it's going to be, and it goes on and on and on. And along the way, a few weeks into it, this a positive version of Victor Van Gibbon shows up, and he's invited into the parlor, and he's so on and so forth. And we think we're seeing a May-December romance between the two of them, and it's forbidden, and he's kind and this and that. And the husband shows back up, and he's a total ranting loon. And he's talking about this weird ship accident that happened a while ago, and we think, well, maybe the aging suitor will demonstrate his worth, because he can't be her lover, of course, because she's engaged, and he's too old, and this and that. But at least maybe he'll show his mettle by sacrificing himself, by dealing with this problem, or by tending to this man, or something like that. And of course, we realize he's the problem all along. And that really is, part of the Dracula story, as told from a different point of view. with another genre thrown in for good measure. I'd be down for that story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that the big issue with this film is it feels less like, hey, let's take this story and do something new and unique with it, and more like, hey, I want to do a film called Nosferatu and remake that film. And there are some sequences that are effective, but I think overall this is a film that you know um it seems to be more about let's do it's too crowded in terms of character.
Yes.
And I like the overall kind of oppressive atmosphere of mid 19th century Germany. I
Gordon,
get that. It's
let
a
me
good
ask you a
looking.
question.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm finished. I'm
I
sorry.
say it's a good looking film, but it doesn't. I kind of felt like it felt like this is the first time that I've ever watched a movie for this podcast or in general, and it felt like homework.
Let me ask you a question. You've seen the Herzog remake, right?
I saw it years ago.
Oh man, do you remember a sequence? And it takes place in daylight because it's all in daylight, given they're up in Scandinavia. That is a banquet that they're having outside in the courtyard because they can't have it in because there's all of the plague taking over this town. And the people are dying while they're at the banquet and they're surrounded by coffins and so on and so forth. It's very stark. Go back and watch that sequence. There is more life. There is more of what I think is really being haunting, necrotic, uh, uh, celebratory, weirdly, in that sequence than in anything in this movie. And I like this one. I didn't have a problem with this movie. I didn't think it was that great.
Right.
It certainly was good looking. But that sequence, wow, I think you'd really enjoy it. I think it gets to the heart of some of what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is not a bad movie. It's well shot. There's some creative ideas. There's at least one good performance, but it feels like this movie is trying to deal with so many subjects at once. It's like, okay, you've got this weird kind of end of I forget what the last period. It's like this kind of approaching Victorian era with a struggle between like science and superstition, where the science that William Dafoe talks about is like, oh, it's alchemy.
It's alchemy, yeah.
You've got kind of like this subplot of it started because the estate agent who sends the husband off is like a devil worshiper who's trying to revive this spirit. I mean, the script is way too busy. I mean, you could
either
easily
one of those ideas is great.
Mm-hmm.
Make the movie about one of those.
Yeah, take all out, but keep one.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, and it's, and again, I mean, this movie, I mean, it's well shot, but it's very overstuffed. It is very overstuffed.
I wonder if they feel like they have to do that to be worthy of the name Dracula, to finally be worthy, that they have to make it this crazy hell's popping thing rather than just make it about one thing really well.
Oh yeah, that would make sense,
And I think part of the problem, and I've said this before, is the source material. The book is a great inspiration for production design, but as a story, it's not the best.
Yeah, and what complicates it is that the film Nosferatu was basically Dracula with the serial numbers filed off and all sorts of changes, which it's like okay, if you create dark it's like saying, well, okay, we want to do a movie like Dark Shadows, so we'll adopt Strange Paradise. You could do that well, but it's going to feel like a copy of something.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Oh yeah, for those that don't know, like what Gordon and Patrick are talking about is actually correct. The original Nosferatu was an unauthorized adaptation of Dracula, so that's why his name is they changed it to Orlok because they couldn't use Dracula, and then they weren't supposed to use vampires, so they used Nosferatu instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
could be confusing though, because the English version they still call him a vampire, but I don't. I think that was applying to the German version. You know,
Well,
Yeah,
and when was that movie made?
it was made
the
in
ori-
22.
Made in 22.
yeah.
So barely, a little over 20 years after the book came out. Was Stoker still alive?
He was, because he was the one who he would have, they'd asked for permission. He said no. And I think that I think after the film was released and they found, oh, there's this stuff, either he or his estate kind of went after the filmmakers.
Yeah, I
But
did. I
then,
thought it was really cheeky of them.
Oh yeah, I think it was his widow.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually,
Uh,
yeah, like oh sorry, but yeah, a lot of people might not know this, but yeah, every copy of the original was supposed to be destroyed once the lawsuit happened, but there was already copies sent to America by that time.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I think atmospheric wise, this movie is really perfect in a lot of ways.
That's a
Yeah,
beautiful film.
there are a lot of characters in this movie. I would also say too, my one complaint about this movie is kind of similar to yours. It's not necessarily about so much people. They're sort of with the castle opening and the Lucy thing. I mean, the Lucy thing, I think we all saw coming, right? I mean, we can agree to that, right?
What?
No,
Well, you mean the ending?
no. The not the ending, but him when he in this movie when he takes the other girl, the first girl.
Uh,
We all saw that one coming, right?
well, yeah. I mean, I think that's almost part of the ritual.
Right. But my thing of it is, and I agree with you guys on a sense of, I don't think you need somebody going to Castle or Lock / Dracula, whatever you want to call it, and doing the whole real estate sort of hustle. Like, you know what I mean? If a vampire is going to show up in your town, then a vampire is going to show up in your town. To give a sort of example of this, why not have? I sort of wish they would have pulled a vampire and have the vampire already be there. That would have been interesting.
Well, I think to your point, Joel, I think that the director, because Robert Eggers wrote and directed this,
Right.
what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I think his intention wasn't, okay, I can do this and create something new with it in terms of
Right.
a different kind of story.
Right.
I don't think he was doing that. I think in his mind he was, well, I want to remake this, but I want to make it bigger and bolder, and I want to integrate some more themes. And what should have been maybe just a few, that whole sequence you could just take out, because we don't need to. One, it's a direct lift from the novel, so I don't think we need to see that. And two, you set up the threat where you have the husband leave, and at some point he comes and he's on the horse and he's dying.
Yeah.
And I think that this really feels more like a, this feels as close to, I think this is maybe a good runner up to unnecessary remakes following Gus Van Sant's shot by shot remake of Psycho. I mean, because it does feel like you can use horror to explore serious themes, but this really feels like it's just okay. Eggers wants to do something about, I'll be honest. Although the ending I thought was clever, I loved it when it was originally used in Ernest Scared Stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know I know I'm
I don't
gonna.
know what does that mean. I thought I had a pretty passionate thought about the ending of this movie. So,
Well, it was about the power of
equating
love.
Ernest Scared Stupid.
Yeah, Ernest Scared Stupid. Ernest realizes, hey, the demon wants affection, so he kisses him and hugs him, and like that. Except here, I think it's even more potent, because I think Orlok is supposed to be just. He even says, "I am an appetite." All he wants is, even though he reaches out for blood, what he wants is affection and connection. And
It's a terrible thing to want those things. And I savor the notion seriously of watching a Jim Varney character sodomized by this by this vampiric figure. I have to admit that's completely transported me. And it has. I'm looking at some of the other films this guy's made, especially the Lighthouse, and it brought something to mind, which is what an interesting movie we might have somewhere out there if we let it continue to be about Jonathan Harker, and it becomes about this weird chess game between the two of them in terms of who's going to get out of this house. For some reason, I guess legal or something, Dracula needs Harker's help to get out of this house because otherwise he would just leave. I mean, it's almost like he has to be invited out of it instead of being invited in. And so we don't kill off Harker, and I guess they don't here, or make him ineffectual. We just keep it in the house, like in the Lighthouse is a story of these two guys trapped in there as a chamber piece. Be interesting to see Dracula, a shard of Dracula told like that if the director were going to shard. I think that's something to look at.
Yeah, and ironically, Patrick, there actually was a movie in the past year made with an idea similar to that called I think it was called The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which takes place on the ship.
I heard about that. I didn't see it. How was it?
I haven't seen it either. I just thought of the title as you were talking. But it's I always think it's a huge whenever I have conversations like this and people start going off into what they should have done, I always want to say, no, we're reviewing the film that is presented. You don't review.
You feel that way, but I think it's also worthy.
No.
We've told this for quite some time. I also think it's worthy to entertain alternate ideas because otherwise, film criticism is a procrastinating in bed, and I don't feel like sleeping.
If you would allow me to finish, I think this is one of those cases where the film is so weak in terms of its story that it's not even a case of, well, they could have handled this sequence differently. It just feels like it's. I question, without sounding too mocking, I question who this movie is for. Like, who's the audience? I mean, something like there's actually I kid you not, there's a Bambi horror movie that came out of England a while ago. Because it was part of those, hey, let's take a public domain character and make it a horror icon. It's like about a mutant deer that kills people. At least that they're doing, I haven't seen the film. I'm not sure if it's good. It probably isn't. But that I could understand where someone said, hey, killer deer, that's an idea. Let's do that. This movie, it feels more like, it really feels like somebody's graduate thesis in film school. I mean, there's good atmosphere and good technique, but the story is just not there. It's just all over the place.
Oh, I didn't know, but I actually didn't know Bambi was in public domain already. I know it was going to be in one, but I didn't know it already was.
Yeah, I think it was released a couple of months ago. I just saw the trailer for it, so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. If you guys think this is a necessary remake, what if I told you there's actually another recent Nosferatu remake that it's weird? It's actually a silent film like the original. Like, I think it was made in like 2023. I don't think it was as popular as this though.
Well, the Asylum.
What was it?
What was it, Daniel?
I don't know who made it.
Okay.
But I think it came in out in 2023 or maybe the same year as this one. But I meant there was another remake of Nosferatu recently.
Huh. Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, it's weird though. It was a silent movie like the original with new actors though.
Okay, it is. I just did a quick Google search. It was called Nosferatu in 2023. Subtitle: A Symphony of Horror.
Yeah, and that's one of the names the original had too. The original had a few different names. I know. I don't know if you guys knew that.
No. Uh, what do you guys? What's you guys' You guys got any favorite scenes from this movie?
I think the ending.
Yeah.
I gotta say the end too. Like
Seriously.
the interpretation of how Orlac died was pretty interesting.
Because I
Yeah.
think her willingness to go, okay, she's had this thing all her life. And I think she understands that, like, okay, the only way to get rid of this threat is for her to sacrifice herself. And I think it's wonderfully done. I just wish the rest of the movie felt cohesive enough that it felt like a natural end versus okay, I can kind of see where it is.
Well, I would also like some sort of explanation as to why this has been with her.
Mm-hmm.
Why, why her? And other versions give us this sins of the mother thing where, she's somehow the spiritual descendant of a woman that he wanted, way back, which is, just ripping off Dark Shadows. But, I would love to see something that really looked at that issue. I don't see it here, and I haven't seen it in other versions, except the only reason I'm usually given is because the screenwriter, and by screenwriter I mean production designer, wants it to be.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything anybody wants to add about this movie before we get?
Oh yeah, one interesting thing too, like I don't know if a lot of people know this, but in a way this actually referenced the real Dracula as well, because I'm sure you guys noticed, but this version of Orlac has a mustache. And
Yeah.
yeah, the real Vlad the Impaler, or that was the real
Sure.
Dracula. He had a mustache.
It's fascinating to see the sort of the revelation of how the character looks, and really only seeing him in sunlight. Ironic, uh, painfully so, literally, is it's really 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 fascinating, and I get the idea that his physicality is always changing. Um, there's something about this story that is in the beginning of it. I think it's very well written in the very beginning. Talking about this well, I mean, what do they call it? A symphony of horror, symphony of death, something like that. But the idea of death en masse coming to this community, and it's going to consume them all, and such promise in that idea. Talking about the wedding in the cathedral and everyone's dead, and because she clutching the hand of death and so on and so forth. Wow, what a big thought. Victorians outrunning the shadow of the Black Death or whatever. Um, to see that, to see a story that really fulfills that epic promise. I mean, because it's about the ultimate battle. Us versus death, and death now is personified, and has what it feels like so often in our lives, but isn't. Has a sense of purpose, has volition, has it in for us. What does that mean? And really, doing something on that level, I would love to see. I mean, those are all the dreams that sort of whisper at me when I'm watching the beginnings of these movies, and they're never fulfilled, and maybe they're unfulfillable. But I think the right writer could.
Yeah. Um, Patrick, it's your turn to pick the movie.
I don't know. What are our criteria here?
Whatever you want to pick, horror.
Well, I mean, you're doing a month of horror, so it should be that. Trying to think of something we haven't seen or haven't talked about, and is worth time. Gordon, what do you think?
I don't have we talked about any of the Corman Poe films?
We tried talking a little about those a while ago. We never got that far into them, so we can either have fun or not, because they seem to fall into those two categories. I think we talked about Mask of the Red death a while ago. I find the fun ones to stick with me a little bit more. So I would almost be. Did we talk about the Raven?
I was about to ask, by fun ones, do you mean the Raven?
Yeah. Well, the
Okay,
Raven and
then
like
let's
trilogy. I need like Trilogy of Terror or something.
let's do the Raven. Hello.
All right. So tomorrow night we'll be doing The Raven, which is a Roger Corman movie. Link to Daniel Culver's YouTube channel, Magic Dove, will be in the description box. Link to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound will be in the description box. Link to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page and website will be in the description box. And yes, link to Alan Galan's YouTube channel, Cullen's Port After Dark, will be in the description box. You guys have a safe night and take care.
You have a good
At
time.
all.